Just moments ago, the House Oversight Committee released video of Epstein accomplice Ghislaine Maxwell, pleading the Fifth while testifying virtually before the panel this morning.
Ms. Maxwell, were you a close friend and confidant of Jeffrey Epstein?
I would like to answer your question, but on the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer this question and any related questions. My habeas petition is pending in the Southern District of New York. I therefore invoke my right to silence under the Fifth Amendment.
Maxwell was questioned during a video call to the federal prison camp in Texas, where she's serving a 20-year sentence for sex trafficking. Maxwell's lawyer says she will only speak openly if Donald Trump grants her clemency, which Trump has not ruled out. Also today, members of Congress are slowly getting a first-hand look at what the Trump Justice Department is hiding in the Epstein files. But not without a catch. Today, lawmakers started reviewing more than 3 million pages of documents in a reading room at the Justice Department, and the process is slow by design. Breaking tonight, Congressman Jamie Raskin says Trump's DOJ set up just 4 computers for hundreds of lawmakers to review the files. The staff estimates it could take, get ready for this, 7 years to review all the documents under the current conditions established by the department. As for the content of the files, Raskin says he saw, quote, mysterious, puzzling redactions when he reviewed close to 40 documents today. Just a short time ago, Congressman Thomas Massie says he and Ro Khanna said they saw documents that were still redacted.
Well, that was an interesting experience.
It was.
The user interface is a little clunky at first, but what I saw that bothered me were the names of at least 6 men that have been redacted that are likely incriminated by their inclusion in these files.
There's still a lot that's redacted. Even in what we're seeing redacted versions. I thought we were supposed to see the unredacted versions, and that's because the documents produced to justice from the FBI, from the grand jury, was redacted when they got it.
Let's bring in Mary McCord, MS Now legal analyst, former principal deputy assistant attorney general for the Justice Department's National Security Division. She co-hosts MS Now's Main Justice podcasts. Also with us, former White House deputy press secretary Sarah Matthews. During Trump's first term, she is now a spokesperson for Home of the Brave.
I am very, concerned about the state of the redactions. The ones that have happened and then the lack thereof for the survivors of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell's abuse. In some of the MS Now reporting about specifically Congressman Raskin, he said that some redactions appeared suspicious and baffling, including one related to billionaire businessman Les Wexner, who has been photographed with Epstein on a plane. Wexner has denied any involvement, but he is going to be, he's due to testify before Congress on February 18th. The only conclusion I can draw, Mary, is that they are protecting the men and hanging the women out to dry.
Well, I would be right there with you, except that last clip from Representatives Massie and Khanna saying that at least what has been explained to them is some of the documents were already redacted by the FBI. And if they came in blacked out and then these are getting scanned in, that would potentially be something that just carries through. Problem is, how do we know that, right? How do we know that that's actually the reason? And even if the FBI had redacted, if the FBI has the ability to unredact through its own systems, right, and then send the unredacted version, unless somebody sat there with a black marker and that's the only copy they have. So, but that is the first I had heard that potential explanation. It could also be they're just being sloppy, right? Because we've seen them be sloppy all along, failing to redact so many of the victims' names and personal identifying information, banking information, and now not fully unredacting things that they had redacted. So I think there's probably some intentionality, some recklessness, some just sloppiness, and maybe a few things that came over redacted.
I want to stay with you, Mary, on sort of the legal space of this, because you've got Pam Bondi is scheduled to sit down at some point as well. And the idea was for these members to get that information, to look at these documents before that conversation. As Alicia noted, They probably should put that off for the next 7 years because that's how long it'll take to go and review the documents under the current situation. So clearly, the effort here is not to have Congress weigh in and take a look at the thing that they want to look at. So how does this impact someone like the conversation with Pam Bondi? What are we doing here? Because from my perspective, this is a complete waste of time. It is utter BS by the Congress. They know what they're doing. They know what the Justice Department is doing. And everyone's pretending that, okay, we're going to go through the process. You give me a bunch of documents, half pages blacked out when we told you not to black out the pages. You know we're going to sit down with the Attorney General. You know we're going to sit down with the Department of DOJ and those officials. So what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Where does this all go?
Yeah, I mean, obviously they'll be able to question her about these redactions. And remember that the statute that was passed is one that says there must be a catalog of every redaction and the reasons. I don't think any of that has happened so far as I'm aware. They can ask her about all of that, but that's not what they really want to be asking about, right? They really want to be asking about the content and how, you know, if they think there are things where the department should have come to a different conclusion. Because remember when the department announced, or she announced last July, I think, that there was nothing to see here. There was nothing that indicated culpability or criminal.
But clearly there's something to see. They redacted half of it.
Exactly. So, you know, they want to be able to ask those pressing questions if they see something that looks like there are people who potentially have criminal culpability. And I think she will also, you know, we'll probably hear from her some similar responses to what we heard when she responded in writing to criticisms of failing to redact the names and identifying information of victims, which was things like, oh, we've used all these technological processes and these were various errors. And I mean, paragraph after paragraph, I think of the same sort of excuse, technology errors, some human error, but that's just not good enough. The other thing I want to know is, like, why is this such a bulky? I mean, ridiculous to have only 7 computers. I understand why DOJ wanted them to come there, because once you, I mean, just back in my DOJ days, once you provide something to Congress, they can do whatever they want with it. They have speech or debate immunity, even if things should be kept close hold, because again, if they're unredacted, it would also have victim names. You know, they can be used. So I get that, but 7 computers, and it should be very searchable, right? So that you don't have to spend 7 years trying to get through it. So she'll get asked about that, but none of that's what they really want to do.
7 computers is luxurious. Mary, there were 4 computers. So in addition to the fact that this is like set up as well as an underfunded public library, Sarah, you also have Ghislaine Maxwell testifying before Congress, pleading the Fifth, as we knew she was going to. And I want you to take a listen to what Congressman Comer had to say, both he and Andy Biggs, about that deposition.
As expected, Ghislaine Maxwell took the Fifth and refused to answer any questions. This obviously is very disappointing.
Was Ghislaine Maxwell put under pressure to stay silent today?
Well, I have no idea.
I'll just add one thing that the attorney for Ms. Maxwell said that she has no indication and would say that neither Presidents Trump or Clinton are culpable for any wrongdoing.
Okay, so there's the question of how Ghislaine Maxwell and her attorneys think this is going to play out. But I go back to the question that Michael asked Mary, and he asked her in the context of the court of law. But I want to ask you the same question in the context of the court of public opinion. Where did Republicans think that this was going to go?
I think they wanted to try to show that they are engaging and caring about the Epstein files. We've seen the public backlash, particularly from MAGA, because this is an issue that they care about, and they think that Trump has mishandled this issue. We've seen that across polling. Even at a Turning Point USA event, Laura Ingraham asked the crowd how she thought the Trump administration had handled the Epstein files, and people were very upset. And they were clapping and saying that they want more more release for the Epstein files and more transparency. So I think this is Republicans in the Congress trying to throw them a bone on this and say, look, we tried to talk to her. But the thing is that this is not enough. There are names in these files that we do know of that should be also brought before this committee, Howard Lutnick being one. And I think right as of now, there is no plan for him to come forward before the committee. And so I think that there's a lot more that could be done if they actually cared about this issue. And what I will say, too, is on Ghislaine Maxwell pleading the Fifth, it's very clear that she thinks there's an opportunity for her to get a pardon from President Trump, or at least some sort of clemency. And I think that that should be very concerning to all Americans, because even though, sure, there's a part of us that wants to hear from her, but are we going to hear the truth? And are we going to hear the truth about President Trump when he has implicated himself and mentioned in the files 38,000 times of what they've released thus far, which is only around half of the documents that we have? And to put that into context, in the 7 Harry Potter books, Harry Potter is mentioned 19,000 times. So Trump is in half of these files already mentioned 38,000 times. So I think he has very good reason to want to give her a pardon potentially. And I think that our government is engaging in a cover-up. It's very clear the fact that they're kind of slow walking this for computers. Jamie Raskin says it could take 7 years. They're trying to bury this as much as they can. And even if Trump grants her a pardon, we can't trust anything she says because we don't know if she's really going to be telling the truth when it comes to President Trump and his potential involvement or knowledge of any of this.